Well, what's up, what's happening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the PUBG Mobile OGC Summer Cup Finals Day 1. We've got 5 rounds of action, mayhem, and strategy to get in with you today, but first and foremost, for those of you who aren't quite acquainted as to who I am, I'm RedEyes, your ever-lovable and adorably cuddly caster, bringing you that daily dosage of butt-kickery, tomfoolery, and all-around shenaniganism, and we do have a stacked lobby for you today, ladies and gentlemen. Absolute heavy hitters. We got Virtus.pro, Rukh eSports, Brute Force, Moneymakers, 4FS, De Muerte, DGSTN, NLO, Alpha 7, NAVI, Team Liquid, Cave, X-Force eSports, ALPI, Grimace Gaming, FATUM LEX, Danger eSports, Arcred, Madbulls, and Team Spirit. So I'm expecting nothing but action right off the bat. And you already know what we're kicking things off with, ladies and gentlemen. The very first map ever introduced to the game. I am, of course, speaking about Erangel. Now, what do we need to say about a map like Erangel? Well, essentially, it's going to be the off-bred love child of Sandhawk and Miramar, because it truly is the perfect middle ground between those two extremes. And here we see it. It's not going to be the most ideal of flight paths. Sorry about that map, ladies and gentlemen. Not the most ideal flight path for our participants to start off, but already we can see two teams dropping fairly close by each other, and that looks to be none other than the Moneymakers and Cave eSports. So without further ado, we're going to go ahead and get into it. Does seem that we're having a little bit of room rendered here, but Koa dropping in with a Scar L, and it looks like they've already got some significant damage dealt out to Cave eSports. Yeah. Yes, Strict is brought down to about 5% of his overall health, clinging to life by the hair on a thread. Oh, and Bisk barely dodges out just in time, right into the action from the get-go. There is no time to waste as Bisk makes quick use of that M416 556 CQC Annihilator. And now it's all down to Strict, and Strict alone here. Let's get our eyes on the prize here. In just a brief matter of moments, a full 4-piece of Cave eSports reduced down to their final hope, Strict, but it is not without some progress. At least they have 2 elims to their name, so in the worst situation, this is a 1v2. Strict is able to get a first aid off in time, but the flash, just bright light around him, and he is blinded, and quick work made. Nicely done by the Moneymakers, getting their first 4 elims already on the table. And taking a brief look at the remainder of the playing field, we see members of, oh yeah, we got a little bit of Virtus.pro confrontation with Alpha 7, and this is going to be one for the books, no doubt. All right, Korka, Scar L, AK-47 in hand, playing it very cautiously, using those utilities to enshroud himself in a cloud of smoke, cover his route to try to catch an alt angle on his opponents in Virtus. Or, pardon me, his opponents in Alpha 7 there. And, oh, just as I say it, looks like Korka does have an elim on the board here. ABC perched on the roof, waiting for the right time to strike. M762 in hand with McGrellin just beneath him, down below half health. Gonna be in need of some meds here. Revo taking a decent amount of damage there as well, and Milky Way is gonna push. Milky Way dropped down like a bad habit, with Revo using that S686, the over-under. 2 shots, but if you make them count, it's a deadly, deadly opponent. Ooh, but nades just crashing back down in retaliation. Carrillo desperately trying to secure some sort of revive here. Can he secure it in time? He does. Revo down for the count, it almost looks like here. Korka with some more utilities thrown inbound. Carrillo still below half health here, but Malloy trying to catch the off angle. Tell you what we're going to do, get both sides of the altercation on the board here with Milky Way on the alt cam, and just like that, Virtus.pro seizes the day. A7 is out of there for round 1. All right, what else is happening on the playing field? Currently, the closest thing to an altercation after that is going to have to be between the likes of Rukh eSports and their opponents in ALPI Gaming. Now, Rukh entering this match as only a three-piece, coming in at an immediate disadvantage. Less gunpowder, less manpower, less firepower in their favor, so they're going to absolutely need to play things a bit more conservatively. Now, when I say conservatively, I don't necessarily mean passively, but they're going to have to choose their battles a little bit more carefully here, and as they don't really have that immediate four-piece numbers in their favor, I would imagine it's not necessarily going to be a less aggressive strategy, but a more conservative, more reserved approach. Now, the biggest opportunity here at hand, I would have to say, currently would lie in the hands of members of NLO, who have a real gatekeeping opportunity here between members of Rukh as well as ALPI. But if so, they're going to have to keep their attention as well to their backside, where members of 4FS could take pretty serious advantage of that. Time will tell what the next altercation is going to be, but for now, we are going to be traveling a little bit further westbound to where members of FATUM, LEX, as well as X-Force and the Moneymakers could be due for an altercation. Now remember, Moneymakers already reduced down to just a two-piece. Now, even with those two pieces, they should not be underestimated, but up against numerous teams, pardon me for having that highlighter on the screen, but up against numerous teams, it is definitely a numeric disadvantage there. Tell you what, we might have another altercation here, this time between 4FS and ALPI, if it does happen. Broken just biding time here. And it doesn't seem like that's going to be happening. And that is to be expected in large maps, having moments of downtime, pockets of silence, bits of in-between time. And as I said, you know, it is fairly common and kind of to the nature of PUBG Mobile esports. But you know what I always say, ladies and gentlemen, is a more passive early game always directly translates to a more action-packed and climactic mid or end game. So it'll be worth the trade if you ask me. But look here, we got Killer Joe coming fairly close in proximity to members of Moneymaker. What is going on with that graphic? I am not sure what is up with some of those graphics not rendering in there. That is a bit odd. Might be an issue with the Game Loop emulator after the most recent update. I'm not sure. If that becomes any sort of problematic for the viewers, just let me know and I can switch the screen over to tablet. Hey, thank you guys for the comments. Now checking it out, guys. We got Rukh and ALPI not far at all. We see Stepbro M416 in hand, just waiting for any sign of an opposition. Clouda 3X scoped outwards just across the street at Rukh, not getting a line of connecting damage. What is going on with that? That is just not going to be workable for me. I don't know what that is, you guys. Maybe it's perhaps with the update, but let me know if it becomes any sort of serious issue. I think after this match, I might switch the graphic settings around a little bit, see if that helps it. Killer Joe is going to make his great rotation. Can he escape the likes of the full four-piece of ALPI eSports? Oof, it is going to be a tough one. Tell you what, we'll get both sides of this altercation here on the screen. Rukh eSports on the alt cam. Killer Joe desperately trying to escape the grips of the opposition in ALPI, and it looks like he's found a position of cover and a place to just wait and reunite with his teammates here, and it doesn't look like ALPI is actually in that big of a hunt. So for now, let's tune in a little bit further down south, where members of Brute Force, wow, that is just not workable, is it? Brute Force firing away at Team Liquid, and boy, retaliation served cold and on a platter as he is taken down like a bad habit, bringing Brute Force down to a two-piece of YD and Neos. Neos gonna try to secure a revive on his fallen teammate here on the beach without even so much as a utility smoke. But look, oh, Ado with a beautiful nade onto Chief, but Cardozan says no and makes the opponent's heart stop then and there. That's going to leave Brute Force all in the hands of Neos and Frizz. And boy, like a bat out of hell, driving towards the opposition. Mollies and Hellfire thrown out to try to subdue Team Liquid. Can they secure this risky revive in time? Wow. Well, Hellfire crashing all around in this exchange of utilities. Damage dealt on both sides. Riz definitely needing to heal up and does so just in time. But look at the number of utilities being utilized here. That is going to drive me absolutely crazy. Getting eyes from the perspective of Ayala and Cardozan here. Ayala playing the slow play. Maybe even trying for a little bit of hardcore parkour, see if he can become a fiddler on the roof here. And it looks like the alt angle has been secured by Cardozan, providing that brief momentary distraction. Ayala tries to add on to it, but actually swallowing a lot more damage than he's able to dish out. Desperately in need of some health, and here he goes. He does secure the first aid just in time. Here on the second story attic, awaiting the inevitable push from the opponent, but coming down there with the S12, doing the quick work, and the 1-2 with the Dukes to finish it. Gotta respect it. All right, well, that is gonna put quite a hurting here onto Brute Force, as Neos is now the final hope for the team. Cooking up a utility, gonna try a little bit of luck here, see if a Hellfire nade can crash down on Ayala, help even the odds for him a bit. It is no such luck. So here we see it. Brute Force Neos in a 1v2 with Team Liquid's Ayala and Cardozan. All right. Neos knows that time is of the essence here, and that blue zone coming in, starting to chip away from his life force. And while this is fairly early on, oh my goodness, of all the mistakes for Neos to make, a little bit of self-deprecation there as he makes that nade crash onto himself. Now, if anything, if that was intentional, I would imagine that he would have eliminated himself to prevent his opponents from getting that elimination point. That's not what happened here. That was a genuine mistake, unfortunately. And ultimately, Team Liquid's numbers work in their favor as Ayala secures the finish with the S12 and the revive on his fallen teammate Cardozan. No time to waste, though, ladies and gentlemen. We got the money makers in fairly close proximity to the likes of X-Force. Now, I don't believe X-Force has had much screen time as of yet. Now, currently, they are a three-piece. They lost Shazzy fairly early on, bringing them down to Miramar, Tima, and TDLV. Tima just biding his time here, dishing out some shots with that M416, no connecting damage. But as Bisk tries to fall to a position of cover, he seems to have left the backside a little bit vulnerable and quickly capitalized on by the likes of X-Force. Now, as Havlik tries to make his great escape, driving away, trying to cut those losses here, it does not seem that they escaped the view of the opponents here. That scope glitch is going to absolutely drive me crazy. All right, well, Havlik will ideally escape. Now, as I say that, he gets kind of out of the frying pan and into the fire, escaping the clutches of X-Force and finding himself dangerously close to FATUM LEX. Wow. This is just... I have never seen so many black squares here just representing trees. How is that? What? I feel like it's honestly happening more frequently. Let me try something here. Yeah, see, none of that's even showing. Let's try... I have never seen that, ladies and gentlemen. Tell you what, though, after this match, we will do a system restart here, and if that doesn't resolve that, I'm guessing that it's probably an issue with the emulator client with the update. Generally, you have to re-download all the assets, but that's already taken care of, so my apologies. If it does become problematic or too much of a distraction, just let me know in the chat, and we can always switch to tablet view if need be. All right, well, here we go. Looks like we got members of NLO dangerously close to Grimace Gaming. We're going to get both sides of this altercation here on the board. Oh, and as I say it, Voston downed in some distance shots from none other than the aforementioned Grimace. And that is going to bring them down to a three-piece of Zoom, MDNS, and CS... Sorry. Pardon me. NC Sorry. Well, Sorry says sorry. I'm out like a light bulb there, and gonna escape that opposition pretty securely there. Not too much trouble rotating at all. Does leave me curious if they're putting themselves into a frying pan fire situation of their own, as they may or may... No, they don't seem to want an escape. They're driving close to NLO. Zoom dishing out some shots with the Scar L. Not a single bullet connecting until that very last moment where I cast her curse. Zoom dishing out the damage. Moxie taken down to below half health. Yumi downed like a light bulb. Grimace Gaming is now a three-piece up against the current two-piece of NLO. Nades crashing down around Zoom, but not going to be enough to finish the deal. And he is able to secure a first aid here. Zoom cooking up some more nades here, and it just crashes down on Young, ringing hellfire. Could not have been cooked better by Martha Stewart herself. Now Moxie feeling all the pressure on his or her shoulders. The only teammate remaining to Moxie is Focus, who is just now finding a way, ideally, to provide a little bit of assistance. And I withdraw that. Focus is a little bit focused elsewhere. And, wow. Well, he's feeling the consequences of that now, as Moxie tries to secure a revive, but is ultimately downed by that nade, finishing off his knock teammate and bringing him into the prone zone as well. Now we have just a cluster here forming at this new zone, ladies and gentlemen, and no time to waste. We have got members of De Muerte, well, multiple members of De Muerte coming in, firing from outside the zone southbound into their opponents beneath them. It looks to be FATUM LEX. Yeah, it is. So FATUM now down to their final hope here. Miyaso trying to hold off the opponent at bay with what utilities are available, and maybe enshroud his fallen teammates in a cloud of smoke, but the mollies come crashing in. A house turned to hell, and just like that, Miyaso is naded out of the equation. All right, Rukh swimming in a pool of De Muerte eSports members. We got Slonic here cooking up a utility. It does seem like De Muerte is a bit aware of the opposition as they throw some retaliatory nades. Slonic gonna take this opportunity to try to dip out and dodge, but the nades stop his escape right there, and then talk about a tough go of it. That's gonna leave it down to Kippa Boss and Killer Joe. Kippa Boss firing away in 4-4X combo. Killer Joe trying to do a little bit of the same. De Muerte seemingly a bit preoccupied potentially with numerous teams. That's right. They are not alone here, ladies and gentlemen. They've got members of ALPI fairly close by too, as well as members of Grimace Gaming trying to pull a flank rotation. We see Focus desperately trying to drive to a position of safety, but with no health to speak of, finding himself extremely low on health, having to utilize what bits of geographical cover are afforded to him. Bringing me to a great point, ladies and gentlemen. When it comes to the end game of a PUBG Mobile Erangel match and compound cover can become few and far between, that's when it really comes down to knowing your geographical advantages. What good hills and divots, what good rocks and boulders can give you some cover at the very least. De Muerte still swallowing little chips of damage. I'm actually going to say probably from the likes of Rukh. I'm not really sure where else the damage would be coming from unless from a very distant spray from their southbound threat in NLO. But it looks like Virtus.pro not out of the thick of it yet. Virtus.pro still clinging to life as a full 4-piece, but with Milky Way knocked. ABC, Korka, and Malloy remain here, but with 5 elims to their name and already reaching down to the top 9 positions here. Only got to hang on to life for a little bit longer for, at the very least, some placement points. As you can see, damage is dealt to NLO, and here we go. Malloy going for the great push, and nicely done. An S12 shotgun shot sounds the same in every language. I don't care if you speak Russian, English, Chinese, Spanish, or Cleon from Star Trek. A shotgun sounds the same and means the same thing in every language. All right, quickly switching to De Muerte as they prepare for an altercation with ALPI eSports. We're going to get both sides of that altercation here on the board. And just like that, on the alt screen, Sandrick of ALPI getting a quick finish with an S12 onto Foops Man. We got Eugene cooking up some utilities of his own. And here we see it, the 3v2 altercation, but will they forget about the threat from behind? And it's showing up here, DG here to party, Limbo Boom right next to the opposition, and a DBS is not going to be a forgiving close quarter combat annihilator at this end game. You find yourself anywhere close to a DBS, you, sir, are in trouble. Limbo just feeling the heat of these nades crashing around him. We got Bego here just desperately trying to enshroud a path away from this altercation here and finding a line of smoke to just dial back to the house behind him. And it does happen successfully, but Pusher has no shortage of utilities, as you can see. Ladies and gentlemen, this new zone has shifted, and so far, literally only one team finds itself in the safety of that new zone's walls, and that's going to be Rukh Esports. The nade crashes down to Step Bro, and he is about to be removed from that family tree, leaving ALPI Esports down to Bego and Sandrick. Tresley of De Muerte firing from the back end here, while Pusher secures the front. Going into FPP perspective, a man after my own heart with that S18, but not even given the chance to use it, and just like that, De Muerte is left with a little bit of muerte themselves. Now, getting eyes on Virtus.pro, Milky Way right next to members of 4FS, but just enshrouded in this cloud of smoke. Airborne not fooled for a second, but he did not give comms with his teammate as Cody drives right into that line of fire, and the nade does damage to him as well. But luckily they were able to secure the finish. But all that noise and commotion has definitely brought on the attention of the zone holders in Rukh Esports as they shoot from the safety of their new zone, getting the takedown on Broken and reducing 4FS down to just 2FS now, Airborne and Cody 4. All the while, ALPI Esports loses Step Bro from the family. On the alt screen, we got Rukh Esports cooking up nades to try to catch 4FS off guard. We got ourselves 3 teams remaining spread across 7 people. Ladies and gentlemen, it is the end game of round 1. Let's get it.
Let's get ready to rumble.
We got ourselves a 1v2v2. Cody currently knocked. If Airborne secures this revive, I'd be fairly surprised. It doesn't seem like there's going to be any reduction in utilities. And now Airborne is the final hope here. It looks like the other team has been eliminated. We got ourselves a 2v2. If he can secure this revive, a fair fight to end round 1. And it's a battle of shotguns. And the DBS is a master of the craft. Well, that is going to put us in a 1v2 now. An advantage that was just moments ago in the hands of Rukh has now been switched. The tables have turned, and now 4FS have the numbers in their favor. Kippa somehow finding a rotation to the care package and able to replenish up to level 3 armor and swapping out that M762 for the MG3, that 762 LMG, the most unforgiving 990 rounds per minute if you put it on the right setting. Very bad news for 4FS in circumstances and context here. If you have to be in a 1v2, having an MG3 is not a bad idea. And Kippa dishing out the damage, but leaving the left side vulnerable. And just like that, 4FS capitalizes. Wow. Absolutely insane start to the day. Ladies and gentlemen, that was immediate action off the rip. We didn't have half the teams landed before our first team was eliminated, but we have got to give credit to where credit is due. We have a phenomenal performance here from 4FS, pardon me. As y'all also saw, that is definitely going to be game over. 4FS putting up some serious numbers and getting all the way to the double-digit 10 elim mark, and add on to that the placement points from that winner chicken dinner. Now, can they carry that momentum and let that confidence not border on cockiness? We'll have to see moving into round 2. Rukh Esports in second with 5, 4 of which came from Killer Joe. We got DG in third with 4, ALPI in fourth with 5, Virtus.pro securing 5th and doing so with a healthy 8 elims. De Muerte in 6th with 6. Team Liquid splashing on into 7th there. You do realize I just postponed the score results to come up with a dad joke pun. But anyways, Team Liquid in 7th, ironically with 7. We got NLO in 8th with 3. We got Grimace Gaming in 9th with 1 from Focus. LEX is going to be in 10th, but with a big fat onion for kills. KST in 11th with 1. MMC is going to be securing 12th with 5. 4 of those 5 came from Havlik alone. Brute Force in 13th with 1 from Neos. Alpha 7 in 14th, but with a big 0 for elims. We got Navi in 15th with 1. And lastly, Cave Esports having a really rough run of bad luck and not just having the opportunity to get properly equipped off their drop and just being eliminated so quickly. Well, hopefully they'll be able to bounce back from that, because, ladies and gentlemen, this was Erangel, the very first map ever introduced to the game. It's the one they're supposed to be most familiar with, but what's going to happen when we move into the wide open arid desert? That's right, a little bit of destruction in the desert as we progress into match 2 of 5 of the PUBG Mobile OGC Summer Cup Finals, day 1, in just a few short moments. Stick around, we'll be back soon. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're back with round 2 of 5 of the PUBG Mobile OGC Summer Cup Finals, Day 1. And you already know what time it is. Time for a little destruction in the desert. I am, of course, talking about the dry, wide open region of Miramar. Now, what do we need to say about Miramar? Essentially, it's the largest map in the game, as it is an 8x8, while Erangel also is 8x8. That includes Erangel's bodies of water, so realistically, this is the largest. Also the most open map that we have in the game, meaning that the odds of you being sniped from 300 meters away exponentially higher. And the third and final thing is this flight path is going to be extremely important on this map, as the map is so large that it can just ensue a lot of early game downtime if it is an inopportune path. So let's see what we're working with here. Oh boy, a perfectly central one to start it off, and not a lot of downtime for us, because it looks like we might have brute force dropping alongside their opponents here in A7. So let's get into it. All right, we got Carrillo holding the second story here. B-Pro just on the other end of the stairs. Carrillo, 36 bullets left in the M249556 LMG, just biding the right moment to strike. Mafioso taking a bit of a hit as well with that UMP45 close quarter combat annihilator, dishing out no damage but swallowing a bit in retaliation, brought down to below half health. But to be fair, he had no helmet and just a level 1 vest to his name. We're gonna get both sides of this altercation here on the board, ladies and gentlemen. That's Mafioso. We're actually going to get both sides, I said. Now, with Neo's pretty injured here, finding himself at about 1/4 of his overall health, desperately needing some meds, and clearly, with none in his inventory, this could be a tough situation for him. He's going to need to lay low and let his teammates try to carry the weight here. And it looks like, actually, we might have other altercations here on the board. Yep, we do. We're going to have to switch on the alt cam off to a separate fight where members of Danger eSports are not far off from their opponents in TS, Team Spirit. Actually, looks like that is going to be a bow out from that altercation. So we're coming back to brute force on the alt cam. All right, Mafioso trying to rotate a line over some member of brute force. I believe that is going to be ODZ52 here, or YDO, pardon me. YDO with a UMP45 in hand, but with nothing for secondary weaponry other than his melee. And speaking of his melee, what an optimistic throw there with the machete. All right, we got Prepod here jumping outside of the safety of the building and immediately suffering the consequences of it. And as a result, leaving YDO here as the final hope here, and quick work done by the heavy-hitting annihilators in Alpha 7. Prove why they've earned that reputation that they have. Absolute annihilators. All right, getting eyes on Rukh. It just seems to be a little bit of a rotation game, but as you can see here, Yankee dangerously close to the opposition in Team Liquid. And talk about a team you do not want to be on their bad side with so early on in Stage 2, or Match 2. After coming off just a phenomenal round 1 performance, you definitely know that the momentum factor is in their favor here. The only issue I could say is that they could be lured into a false sense of confidence, thinking that they're in a 3v1 with Yankee. However, the truth could not be a little bit more far from the truth, as other members of Rukh have a real opportunity in pulling a distance flank rotation and maybe catching other lines of sight. However, Yankee is mollied out of the equation here. Here's Killer Joe with that other line of sight we were talking about, but a little bit too far off, and not really, at this stage, any possibility of reviving their fallen teammate. And it is quick work. Rukh, at that point, has got to be reduced down to a 3-piece of Kippa, Killer, and Slonic. And that would have to change up the aggressive strategy, at least to an extent, for them. And for now, we're left with a little bit of downtime while these numbers dwindle. The zone is shifted. Everyone's just trying to get prime positioning here. Looks like Rukh driving a little bit cautiously outside the safety of the new zone here, and it looks like, yep, as I saw it, the poor souls in MM eliminated fairly early on from the equation. The money makers, tough go for him, unfortunately. But eyes on Rukh here, where Killer Joe is at the forefront of a risky push towards De Muerte. And it seems as if Joe knows. UMP in hand, and yes, the immediate hipfire spray does connect, and what it didn't connect on, Joe was able to hop out the window and finish. That was one of the easiest looking elims that we'll probably see all day, but you know, with the confidence in his favor, it's understandable. Virtus.pro finding themselves close to members of Alpha 7. However, we also see 4FS not far off from NAVI. Haven't seen a lot from NAVI so far today. And here we got Model perched with the safety of this geographical high ground, aimed outwards with that 3X Scar L at 6. And not getting a single bullet of connecting damage. Airborne holding a little bit of this overwatch position here as well. We got a little bit of downtime. We're going to just check the map, make sure we're not missing anything. Zooming in a little bit closer. You can see Team Liquid not far off to the north from a solo member of 4FS, Cody, a ways away from his teammates. We've got members of DE a little bit in front of them towards the position of the mountaintops here, it looks like. It's going to be Danger eSports. Okay, I see. One moment, you guys. I just lost my slot list. Let me pull that back up. Voila. All right, golden. So, where's the next bit of altercation going to come from? Where is the blood going to be at? Oh, I see. All right. My apologies about that. All right. Well, so far, no blood on the battlefield yet, but here we go as Virtus.pro and Cave Esports are going to duke it out now. Virtus.pro, Cave Esports definitely with a lot to prove here, having just the worst start to an event finals that they could possibly have anticipated. You know, just being eliminated first in match 1 is certainly going to put a damper on your confidence, but I think anything that can be said about the nature of Tier 1 pro PUBG Mobile esports, the teams that generally do the best are the teams that are able to shake off their mistakes and move forward productively. And I'm hoping Cave Esports can do a little bit of the same. Speaking of Cave Esports, we got Vitusha with the AUG-23, not trying to draw unnecessary attention to Virtus.pro, but with Milky Way lining himself up like fish in a barrel, Vitusha kind of caved into the temptation there. Unfortunately for him, not a single lick of connecting damage, and so basically his position has been compromised. The high ground is going to be held by Virtus.pro, and now Vitusha finds himself away from any potential assistance. Actually, I might withdraw that. He's got keep there, just a little bit of a ways off. But look at how Virtus.pro is playing this, ladies and gentlemen, surrounding the opponent on numerous points, basically securing numerous lines of sight on the opposition here. And ABC holding the car ramp as well. We've got Korka pushing in aggressively here. Vitusha trying to hold the opposition off with some utilities, cooking up a grenade. Korka going to reply with a little bit of the same, and boom! What a great throw. If he had only been able to cook it just a few moments longer, it would have probably been game over there for Vitusha. Well, Vitusha with a beautiful jump down shot. Securing one takedown. 1, 2, he's got the 3-piece! Can he get Milky Way? No! Oh my god! He almost took Milky Way out. It was almost a 1v4 squad wipe on Vitush's end, taking Milky Way down to 10% of his overall health. It was so... oh my gosh, so close. Milky Way finding himself in a 1v1 altercation. I know there are other fights on the board, but we have got to get a little bit of both sides of this. And Milky Way coming in, but ultimately drop-shotted. And just like that, Vitusha's efforts are preserved by Keep. What a performance by Vitusha and Keep. Absolutely mind-boggling. That was insane. That's getting clipped, ladies and gentlemen. If I didn't clip that. All right, well, we got Alpha 7's Carrillo here. With the Overwatch over a very weakened Team 22 here. Oh, but sorry about that. Yeah, Team Spirit beneath him, and Carrillo picking him off like fish in a barrel. Down goes 26. McGrellin coming to assist from the down angle, securing a revive on Revo after getting another takedown of his own. A7 with a beautiful performance thus far. 7 elims to their name, and there's still so much time on the board. We haven't even finished stage 2, ladies and gentlemen. Carrillo, 4x, M4, catching that downhill line of sight on Effect, dishing out some single taps with the M4 that are connecting. All the while, Rukh and NAVI having it out in the distance. Let's catch a little line of sight on that. All right. Yep, and NAVI 6 securing a takedown of his own, but dished out a little bit of a knock as well. So now NAVI is down to their final hope, Flip, who is desperately trying to make his great escape. Now look at this. Not a single one of the NAVI knocks has been secured to an elim. That is extremely unfortunate, and Flip has no choice but to bow out and try to at least reduce the damage done to his team here in round 2, meaning that even if he's not able to get a single elim, at the very least trying to secure some placement points, being realistic about what he can do as a one-person team against numerous full 4-person annihilating tier 1 pros. I think the best odds are to lay low and let the numbers dwindle. Sure, maybe he has an opportunity to get a third-party elim steal here and there, and if that opportunity presents itself, great. But for now, he's just got to lay low. That's the best thing that his team can hope for. Maybe he can get to the top 8 and secure some placement points, but time will tell. For now, we're going to switch our attention over to members of Arcred here. We'll do it actually on the main screen. We got Fragger, Hard Boy, Bad Boy, and Raygon. Sorry about this render here, ladies and gentlemen. It does seem that being in North America on other servers, it does take that little brief moment to render in, even on the emulator. But here we have it. Hardboy doesn't look like he's actually going to be as close to an altercation as I once had anticipated. But as they work their way into zone, I am concerned about Frag and Bad Boy in case that they find themselves victims of the Overwatch coming from Rukh eSports. Bad Boy actually also finding himself a little bit in a potential gatekeep situation. What is the actual heck is happening there? Yeah, the high ground holders in Rukh, I don't think that they had much reason to fire downward. I don't think the ability to knock and secure the thirst would have been there. But I can't say that for sure. Tell you what, for now we're going to tune into a solo, Mr. Flip himself here. And Flip is about out of time here. That vehicle that he is rotating around in just became a ticking time bomb. And thank goodness for the recent updates allowing for healing while driving. But regardless, we're going to go tune in to the boys in Team Liquid. Team Liquid, still a full 4-piece, 3 elims to their name. Whoever they were firing at does not seem to be any sort of immediate threat. We're going to go... Actually, I withdraw that. I see who they're firing at. It's Cardozan of Team Liquid, who is fairly close to Arcred. Cardozen responsible for 2 of the team's 3 elims thus far. Just to get a better idea of just how far these teams are, just one road separating Cardozen from the 2-piece of Fragger and Hardboy. Fragger with utility in hand just in case Cardozen's feeling kind of froggy and wants to leap. Arcred is ready. What is Alpha 7 doing? Revo taking fall damage after, if I'm not mistaken, Magrelin also knocked himself to fall damage recently. Well, Magrelin just across the way catching a line of sight on the solo of NAVI. And look at that. Talk about the weirdest save on a Rukh eSports member. Oh, it's Flip. He is not eliminated. He does secure the finish on Kippa Boss, and now in a 1v1. Now, look at that. Very nicely done. And talk about being under pressure. Flip was being fired at across the way from Alpha 7, still maintaining composure, getting the knock in the one-person single shack, and then still finding the time, prioritizing the thirst, and preparing for the inevitable push from the remainder of the opposition. Mythic coming to secure a revive on his fallen teammate Ayala, which is going to leave Chief and Cardozen in charge of the overwatch and cover fire here. One moment, you guys. Let me make sure this is correct. Okay, good. Cardozen playing the slow play here. Remember, this is a marathon, not a sprint. No time for any impulsive, overly aggressive moves here, especially when the remainder of your team is a distance away. And speaking of which, we're about to have a 3-way love triangle here happening between members of Madbulls, Team Liquid, Alpha 7. Oh my goodness, Revo in full form, high ground and Overwatch playing the maximum benefit here. And now you have just angered the Madbulls. You waved a red flag in front of their face and they are charging here. Cardozen of Team Liquid actually pulling a rotation out of the equation. Oh, just a flank rotation for a different angle on what I believe was meant for A7 Revo, but finding himself a little bit susceptible from the backside to Madbulls. Ayala swallowing some damage from Madbulls as well. Chief coming to provide a little bit of assistance where he can. Tell you what, we'll pull Revo up on the alt cam to get his perspective as well. Revo currently with 4 elims to his name here. 4 of the team's 9 elims as Alpha 7 carries forward as still a full 4-piece. And ladies and gentlemen, I don't care what tier you play out, you cannot put enough emphasis on being a full 4-piece come the final zone in game. I mean, that can be the absolute imperative difference maker between a chicken dinner and, let's say, a 2nd or 3rd place finish. All right, Madbulls building to building with the likes of Team Liquid. Oh, sorry. Revo firing away, but at who? I couldn't tell you. Oh, he's firing some distance shots at members of 4FS. 4FS doesn't seem overly concerned with engaging with that, understandably so. Oh wow, Revo's shots are actually connecting fairly consistently here. I'm just gonna switch him to the main cam for now. Utilizing an opportunity where he can to enshroud himself in some smoke. We got DG off in the distance as well. And look at that. We're gonna go check in on him. Knight on fire. Night has just become a burning candle, but with an S12, that candle burning bright is still a dangerous one. It can still burn you. However, Night has fallen here, and that is going to mean Banana secures the revive on his fallen teammate Senator. Well, we'll see. Can he do it before the inevitable push from DGSTN? Well, with Magum knocked, it leaves it as a 1v1. Banana here in the clutches with Obli. We'll get Obli up on the alt cam. And boom goes the dynamite, all two, literally 2 birds, 1 stone, and that is quick work. Ladies and gentlemen, we are reaching only 1 minute left in stage 5. As we reach the concluding portions of match 2, it is going to turn this destruction desert here into an all-out bloodbath and in-game warfare danger zone. Look at this. We got Arcred, 4FS, Madbulls, as well as Team Liquid here, just all at the edge. Only about 150 meters separating these teams. Still outside the zone to the north, more members of 4FS. We got members of, DGSTN, as well as members of NLO. Tell you what we're going to do. Check in on NLO for just a brief moment. Currently, definitely a bit of a more reserved, slow play approach, it seems. Yep, with Obli down, that's going to leave DG in the hands of Boom and Magnum. And we have both sides of the same altercation going on here. Sorry, an MDNS, sorry guys, Madness pulling their rotations, and it is NLO gonna pull for a rotation inbound into the zone or an aggressive push to secure some elims. I think they're gonna prioritize positioning here, and I can't disagree with that decision. However, their choice of positioning does leave me a bit concerned, as it does still leave their backside vulnerable to the solos in DGS. All right, we got Madness trying to catch a line of sight on the high ground holders in Cave Esports. Now, Cave, we talked about having a lot of ground to make up after a very, very rough start to their day in match 1, being eliminated first. Well, Cave Esports is doing just that. 4 elims to their name. They did lose 2 members over the course of this match, but ironically enough, all 4 of their current elims are spread between their 2 remaining players. So, if anything, you just can't underestimate them, even as a 2-piece. And, ooh, it looks like DG putting in some good shots towards NLO. And, boom, is taken out in retaliation. Quick work, and that is going to be it for DGS for the match. But a great performance nonetheless. Catching eyes on 4FS on the alt cam, trying to find their way into this new zone, but ironically, they've got some high ground holders to worry about. Those high ground holders are the last people that you want to be on their bad side. I am, of course, talking about the absolute PUBG Mobile eSports titans, the bullies of Alpha 7. Say what you will about Alpha 7, say what you will about overall PMSL placements, but to argue with the player rosters and their individual stats and their overall, just their records as a team, you can't. You just can't. They are in very much a light one of the Mortal Kombat final bosses. All right, Cave Esports Vitusha with the very, very vulnerable rotation, finding himself susceptible to lines of sight from literally every single team on the playing field. Model here, 4FS, putting a hurtin' onto Revo of Alpha 7 across the way. Revo taken down to literally 5% of his overall health, but able to get to a position of cover and med back up, and it's almost like it never happened aside from the damage to his armor. Trying to enshroud himself in a cloud of smoke, give himself some cover to rotate back to the remainder of his A7 team. Model with some spray and pray shots that don't seem to connect on it. Well, Cody finding himself in between a rock and a hard place, all too literally. Model literally stuck between a rock and a dead car place. And now, ooh, with the vehicle explosion. He barely dodged the damage from it, finding himself very lucky to have. And ladies and gentlemen, we are down to our final 4 teams spread across 10 people. It is the ending stage of match 2 of 5 of the PUBG Mobile OGC Summer Cup Finals, day 1. Let's get it.
Let's get ready to rumble!
All right, Model finding himself in a battle against time as that blue zone is pushing in on his backside. He is down below half health. He's fully boosted, enshrouding a path forward in a cloud of smoke, but he knows that this tunnelway likely has an enemy in it, and whoever is in there is throwing some utilities to try to hold him off at bay. Model taken down. Airborne has fallen to the ground. That plane is crashing. Now Cody is the final hope for the team, and boy, off in the distance, A7 swallowing the damage and eliminated. And so now we are down to 3 teams here. It's a 2v2v1 to end round 2. Oh, the flashbang, and Bad Boy desperately wanting to push forward. It is a monster nade across the way. Oh my goodness, we got it on the alt can. De Muerte, Foops man, making the absolute most efficient nade that he possibly could have in the time given. 2 birds, 1 stone right there, maybe even taking down some opposition. Foops responsible for all 4 of De Muerte's eliminations and securing that first place chicken dinner on the tip of their tongue finish. Nicely done to De Muerte. Give credit to where credit is due. 4FS with ain't nothing wrong with silver when you're putting up 6 elims with it. Arcred in 3rd, getting the bronze medal here with 4 elims. Alpha 7 showing a lot of improvement here in round 2 and taking 4th place, but get this, with 13 elims, and 10 of those elims between Carrillo and Revo alone. We got the Madbulls seeing red and charging into 5th place with 5 elims, 4 of which came from English. Team Liquid splashing into 6th with 5. We got Cave, a much better performance than round 1. Still a lot of room to go as they secure 7th with 5 elims. NLO in 8th with 5. DG in 9th with 4. DE coming in 10th with 1 from Knight. We got Navi in 11th with 2 from Flip. Rukh in 12th with 4, 3 of which came from Joe. We got TS Team Spirit in 13th with 1 from Naomi. Virtus.pro in 14th with 2. We've got MM coming in 15th with 1 from Boss. And lastly, Brute Force in 16th and last place, but with 0 elims to claim to their name. What an absolute knockout day it has been so far. We are only 2 of the 5 matches in for the day. However, those are going to be the expanses of the maps that we play, meaning we are just going to be switching back and forth, Erangel to Miramar, back and forth, rinse and repeat. So you already know what that means. We'll be back in just a few short moments with round 3 of 5 of the PUBG Mobile OGC Summer Cup Finals, day 1, in just a few short moments. Stick around. We'll be back soon. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're back. Round 3 of 5 of the PUBG Mobile OGC Summer Cup Finals, Day 1, and you already know what's going on. We're back to the very first map ever introduced to the game, Erangel. We've already talked about the geography of this map and all the kind of ins and outs of it. So let's just get into the flight path and see what we're working with. All right, this is the second time in a row now that our participants are met with not the most ideal of flight paths, to say the least, but they can have to kind of work with what they're given here, meaning that we might get some early game military-based confrontation, but if not, it's definitely going to have to be a lower southern half of the Erangel map, for at least for the first stage or two, with the exception of any vehicle rotations. We'll have to give it a little bit of time to know for sure. If you're just tuning in, this is round 3 of 5. Let's get into it. Having a look-see at the map, it looks like ALPI not far off from members of Rukh. Yeah, we already have action. It does seem like Slonic met with a very rough start to the match here, eliminated, reducing Rukh down to a 3-piece of Kippa, Yankee, and Killer Joe, and that seems to be the end of that immediate altercation. We're going to switch over to De Muerte as they land dangerously close to, ironically enough, Danger eSports. Ayo. And it does look like Danger caught a little bit of wind of De Muerte and decided to prioritize getting a little bit more safety in positioning here. Bisk. Yeah, we got Bisk of the Moneymakers pretty close to members of X-Force, a member of X-Force. Whether or not he is aware of that is yet to be seen. And we also have a potential confrontation on the northeastern portion of Zone, where you can, you can see members of Arcred not far off from the opposition in Danger. The opposition in DGSTN. My apologies. We'll catch a brief eye on it, make sure we're not missing anything. And as I say it, Obli down like a bad habit, leaving it down to Zadira, Limbo Boom, and Magnum. Limbo, Scarrel, S18 in hand, with armor, decent armor, and falling back to a position to cover here. Magnum trying to provide some sort of cover fire and overwatch to his fallen teammate Obli, but as the nades crash down on that second story, there's not much he can do to stop Frag from his frags. Limbo gonna make that risky revive regardless here. Get both sides of this altercation on the board here. Hardboy holding position on the porch top, M4 in hand, and cooking up a utility. It would be a fairly optimistic utility. Now, these participants are going to have to be careful not to zone too much in on each other here. If they focus too hard on one another, they will very likely find themselves in a vulnerable line of fire from 4FS, who is just a little bit further inbound into the safe, or this new zone, finding themselves kind of in an open position to readily just sort of pick off any easy scraps. Well, talk about easy scraps. I hate to say I'm right, but 4FS catching a line of sight on Fragger right there and then, and that is an easy knock for them. That's going to put Arcred in a bit of a pinch here, especially with 4FS broken, pulling a flank rotation, getting the high ground and the backside on an already distracted Arcred. Fragger going to quickly be shot out of the equation. Well, as I say that, I'm realizing Broken did not quite get the thirst there. However, there's no chance of a revive at that stage. Fragger will take that, or I guess Broken will take that easy elim, and that'll be his first on the board and the team's first as well. Anything else happening as of yet other than this altercation? Not so much. My main concern is more for DGSN, and in particular members like Magnum, who may or may not know about this pinch between the Madbulls behind him. We've got 4 teams, I guess essentially 3 teams in a real cluster. We've got Limbo Boom and Obli here serving as this deli meat in a peanut butter and truffle sandwich, and you already know that Arcred and de muerte are the bread. Goodness gracious. This is in between a rock and a hard place. And yep, Limbo, boom, taken out from the back end from Model, and that is going to put even more pressure on his, well, his remaining teammate closest, Obli. They still have Magnum somewhat nearby, but in the school pool, and that is a little bit too far for comfort here. He might be able to get that other line of sight on the opposition if they made a risky push to secure any thirst. But aside from that, there's not really any chance of securing any revives without eliminating the enemies first. At least not for Magnum. Now, Obli could, and he does. Thankfully, I will also boil that down to a bit of hesitation from, well, you know, it can't be from 4FS's end because they are spread out as a two-piece with a lot of open field to cover if they wanted to attempt to secure a thirst on DGS end, especially when they know Arcred is just behind there. But Arcred, as a full four, I guess a three-piece team, knowing that one of this duo was knocked, it could have made sense to push forward. Even as I say that, I think I'm going to have to backstep just because I think it would have been a bit of a vulnerable push even from them because 4FS had Model on the back right angle. And I do think that that would have probably amounted to at least one knock on an Arcred member, very likely a thirst on them. So yes, it could have been an easy elim still for Arcred. I do think I understand their hesitation and pushing out into vulnerable territory. No time to waste. We got the likes of GG, Grimace Gaming, crossing the bridge and holding the edge here. Is this going to be the beginning stages of a bridge camp up against the likes of Team Spirit? Time will tell. It looks like Naomi making a vehicle rotation away from the opposition, and Grimace Gaming reuniting with some teammates here in Spirit. Other than that, we are left with a bit of a standstill, but not for long, ladies and gentlemen. As you can see, Arcred not out of the frying pan by any means, still swimming in a pool of DGSTN members. And it does not seem like Bad Boy wants any unnecessary attention drawn to himself. Now, Arcred, as a three-piece, still a very formidable threat here, but with 0 elims on the board, there's still plenty of time remaining, and we haven't even reached the concluding portions of stage 1, but they are going to have to keep their elim counts in mind here. What do I mean? I mean that, yes, there's always going to be a purpose in placement points. But since the changing of the scoring structure for PUBG Mobile eSports being shifted to a more elimination-intensive scoring structure, simply getting placement alone is not going to be enough to cut it, especially at this tier of gameplay. All right, we are going to be due for some serious bloodbath warfare from numerous angles. I'm going to switch now to where Rukh eSports prepares for an altercation with Team Spirit. I'll pull the previous altercation up on the alt camera if anything happens. Tell you what, we're going to switch around here, make sure that we're not missing. Yep, Kippa is by far the closest to Team Spirit. And on the alt cam, we'll go bring up Arcred, where they have a potential altercation brewing with NLO. And yes, it does happen. It looks like Raygon, pardon me, was able to secure a takedown with the SA team, but ooh, retaliation dished out in spades as he is brought down to the prone zone quickly. No time for celebration for him, and that is going to put a real hurting on these boys. And now Hard Boy has gone a little bit soft and fallen to the ground just like that. Now Raygon and Hard Boy both knocks, leaving the entirety of the pressure here on Bad Boy's shoulders. All right, well, we're going to have to switch away, ladies and gentlemen. As this little standoff looms, I like to go where the action goes. And catching wind on the money makers here, preparing for a altercation with the likes of FATUM LEX. Tell you what, we'll go to FATUM's perspective. I don't believe they've had much screen time today. All right, we got Alex, Veranik, Asotin, and Ego. Ego, a little bit of damage done to that Ego as he is taken down to just above half health, but the boy is boosted and working quick to regain that health. Desperately hunting for some new armor, he does find himself that level 1 helmet. Rukh is still in the thick of it here, though. Here on the alt cam, we got NLO. Yeah, we're going to go to this here, 4FS and NLO, just to see if it actually ends up happening. Airborne is, Airborne and Cody here desperately trying to escape the clutches of a very, very eager to chase NLO, and it looks like they may have gotten the distance that they needed for NLO to give up on the chase. Luckily for them. No time to waste as the money makers here trying to earn a quick buck up against the likes of ALPI. Biss cooking up some utilities here, and it looks like there already has been a takedown. Stepbro is down and outed from the equation here, removed from the family tree with 1 shotgun spray. Icy Boss desperately in need of some revives here, but Biss having to hold off the opposition with a nade. Did it connect? I don't think it was enough. It did! It did! Alpi Bego is eliminated with a nade. Bisk coming through with a team clutch just like that, and it was an equal effort on all of the moneymakers' ends. 3 players, 3 elims, 1 per person. Everybody eats. Can't argue with that. But De Muerte, like sharks in the water, they heard the shots and they smelled the blood. And are they coming in for a third party, maybe a late stage rotation to push on a weekend? Moneymakers, it looks to be so, as Tresley secures the first knock. And it is going to be no time wasted. Pusher living up to his name, pushing aggressively forward. One of the moneymakers down by Foopsman. Now, Foopsman, talk about a heavy backpack. That guy put forth such a huge effort in the last match, responsible for all the team's elims and the first place finish. But to take him out of this equation early on, that could be a game changer at this stage. And Foopsman taking out Koa. Tresley getting the finish on Icy Boss, and that is quick work. Just like that, De Muerte dealing out a little bit of muerte themselves, getting their first 4 elims of the match and not losing a single member in the process. Once again, eyes again on the ever-patient Rukh Esports and Team Spirit. Now, as eager as I am to hang out here, these 2 teams have been in extremely close proximity to one another for about almost 10 minutes. Maybe not quite 10 minutes, let's say 5 minutes or so. At least the majority of Stage 1. Now, we are reaching the concluding portions of Stage 2. It is time to rotate Naomi, rotating the same time as a Rukh member and finding themselves parallel, and it doesn't seem that they want that smoke just yet. But look at this zone. Nowhere to choose from, nowhere to run, nowhere to hide. It's going to be bloodbath warfare. Christmas came early for the viewers. Let's get it. We got FATUM LEX putting some warning shots outwards toward the likes of X-Force. Alex getting a high ground geographical cover position, but avoiding it here now and quickly running towards Ego. Ego trying to give some cover fire, but ultimately Alex is down. Ego shots might have been the saving grace for Alex to get to a position around the house and secure a revive. All the while, Rukh and Madbulls, one building, one little warehouse separating these two, just a few meters between these 2 heavy hitters. Look at this. Yankee holding off an entire 3-piece of FATUM LEX here with 1 nade. All right, tell you what, we're going to go get a closer look here at this altercation, going to FATUM on the alt cam. And yes, Zeri really wants an easy nade knock on Rukh before he pushes. Rukh fairly distracted, literally just splitting up their members here, trying to spread out their attention, focus on Madbulls and FATUM LEX, and I don't blame him, but with Killer Joe being left kind of to his own to attend to Madbulls, he might not even know about this outlier in brute force. Yeah, brute force coming in from the off angle. Joe taking quite a bit of damage right there. And just like that, pre-pod is down. Wow, pre-pod. All right, well, it looks like DG has pulled on in. And here we go. Limbo, Obli, and Magnum ready to dish out a little bit of damage where they can. Tulika of the Madbulls got a little too focused in on that red flag, charged a little too vulnerably, and quickly removed from the equation as a result. Now, DG, Obli desperately trying to secure this revive on, or pardon me, Magnum desperately trying to secure that revive. It looks like, pardon me, it was Obli. Magnum trying to hold the opposition off at bay, in charge of the overwatch and cover fire while they try to secure Limbo's revive, and it is a battle of utilities. Both players trying to make it rain hellfire on the other here. Neo's with a real opportune angle, but as I say it, finding himself vulnerable to none other than the remainder of Madbulls. Madbulls unintentionally providing some assistance to DG STN. All the while, Virtus.pro off in the distance. There's just too much action here on the playing field to leave this. So here, we'll have it on the alt cam as Korka cooks up some utilities. Tell you what, we actually will go to this and switch backwards on the alt cam. Korka securing a revive just on the very edge of this zone barrier here. It looks like whatever altercation they were in the mix with, they have secured. The eliminations are going to carry on as a full 4-piece. Remember what I said in round 1? You can't put enough emphasis on being a full 4-piece come in game. Now, right here, we are left with a 2v2v2 love triangle. I guess a 2v2v3 love triangle between Rukh, Madbulls, and DG STN. All the while, just a little further back, FATUM LEX and their opponents in X-Force duking it out with one another. We got Miramar M416 in hand, playing the slow play. Shazzy, a bit of damage taken, and desperately in need of some medding. Gonna go full boost, and seemingly comfortable here, as you can see he's gonna be resorting to bandages rather than utilizing one of his 2 first aids. Are we missing anything? Yes, we are. We got De Muerte off in the distance, holding a distance gatekeep on Virtus.pro. But look, they are giving a hot pursuit chase to members of De Muerte. Tresley becomes a bowling pin just like that. Foops, man, we saw what this guy can do. Even as a solo, you cannot rule out Foops. And with a monster utility to get the chicken dinner in one of the previous matches, you don't want to see Foops with a frag grenade. And look at that. He dishes out some monster damage, almost taking Malloy and Milky Way out, almost pulling a repeat 2 birds 1 stone nade, but not this time. Foosman is going to use this opportunity to pull a rotation while the opponent heals and try to get, well, I was going to say reunite to a position of cover with his teammates. It does not seem that he is out to reunite. He's out for an off angle. And ABC of Virtus.pro suffering the damage from De Muerte. Muerte has been dealt. And on the alt cam, we can see Brute Force's Freezer here just holding position, playing the waiting game, and not really anywhere he can go without facing an immediate altercation. So we're going to switch to 4FS out on the edge of this northern zone. 4FS currently having at it within LO. All the while, they got Team Spirit coming in from a potential off angle. Well, with that takedown on Boston, NLO is in the hands of, pardon me, DNS. And DNS is out of the equation right then and there. So, The third party blood in the water has been smelled by both De Muerte and Team Spirit as Model and Airborne try to regain their composure here from this previous altercation. There's no time. Airborne trying to enshroud himself in a cloud of smoke, give himself what bits of cover he can as nades and hellfire crash down around him. Model, his only remaining teammate, removed from the equation. Airborne desperately trying to secure a revive. First aid. He does heal up just in the nick of time, but danger driving all around him as Team Spirit swarms on him like mosquitoes in a North Carolina summer, and boom goes the dynamite and effect with a monster utility nade and a DBS shot to add insult to injury. Well, taken out of the frying pan into the fire, Team Spirit just filling in the shoes of the enemies they eliminated, and now De Muerte, who heard all those shots, smelled the blood in the water, out to try to get a third-party elim steal here, maybe pick off on a weakened Team Spirit. All right, Rukh facing a little bit of conflict. It looks like Kippa has been knocked, leaving it in the hands of Yankee and Killer Joe. I don't want to stay here for too long as they've been just holding position for a while, but Yankee desperately in need of this revive here. He's going to try his best to stick it before the inevitable push that's bound to come from KST. We got Miramar at the forefront of this push, M4 in hand, and just in case things get sticky in close quarters, he's got the DBS ready and waiting. All right. Who is that? Okay, all right. Here we go. Action on hand here as Miramar tries to get a takedown on members of Grimace Gaming. Does get the takedown on Focus. He wanted to secure the thirst on the other knocked member of GG, but it looks like it was stolen by none other than Rukh. Rukh at this point dealing with a ton of attacks of their own here. This is all-out bloodbath warfare. DG doing some quick work. Rukh getting another takedown on Grimace Gaming, and it looks like maybe, perhaps, Grimace Gaming are removed from the equation. It does seem to be so. Off across the way, De Muerte's pusher very, very weakened as nades just crash around him. His only remaining teammate, Eugene, bleeding very quickly and in an open position. Nades just falling down like a thunderstorm here from the likes of Team Spirit's Effect. And Effect gonna smoke his way towards the opposition. Molly's just a little bit off, but the DBS, oof, the most unforgiving weapon. Even from a little bit of distance, from 10 feet away, a DBS pulling out that buckshot is just a close quarter annihilator. DG in a bit of a tough, sticky situation here. We got Magnum facing off against numerous members. He is downed right before our eyes, leaving DG in the hands of Obli. Obli trying to secure a revive on his fallen teammate Limbo, but that is going to be a tough one, especially... Oh, actually, he might have a little bit of grace here. It does look like Brute Force has to preoccupy themselves with getting their own revives, but with Virtus.pro's Malloy coming in from the back angle, a real opportunity for some thirsts and free elims, essentially. But look at that blue zone chipping away at his health, bringing me to a great point. Ladies and gentlemen, I don't care who you are or what tier you play at, what bracket you play at, nobody has a higher KD than that blue zone, and Malloy suffers the consequences as a result. Brute Force finding themselves just out of the safety of the zone, and the blue zone just chipping away at their health, and as they are weakened, members already in the safety of this new zone, all they had to do was pick them off like fish in a barrel. Ladies and gentlemen, down to our final 5 teams. We see 3 of the 5 right here before our eyes. We got Rukh, Madbulls, and DG in a love triangle standoff, 2v2v2. Oh, the nade onto Zeri! Beautifully thrown. Martha Stewart couldn't have cooked a nade better. Fly Q cooking some response nades here, trying to dish a little bit of revenge out. Mollies and Hellfire crashing all around Zeri as he tries to crawl back to the safety of Fly, but just across the bridgeway, DG tries to capitalize with some utilities of their own. It's almost like Rukh and DG had some unconscious agreement saying, hey, let's just gang up on the Madbulls first and then we can worry about each other. And look at this, Madbulls down to FlyQ and FlyQ alone. All the while, Kippa Boss just behind him on the alt camps, finishing the Bulls off right there. Says, I will be the bullfighter. DG Limbo Boom cooking up some nades, but whether or not Kippa is aware, yet to be seen. But ladies and gentlemen, 4 teams remain. 3 of them in our line of sight. Kippa Boss naded down to the prone zone. Killer Joe is killed instead. And now 2 teams are made. It's Effect in an extremely vulnerable 1v2. But look at this. Effect with 10 of the team's 14 eliminations to his name. What a solo performance we are seeing here. It is very rare to get double-digit elims as a solo, and so even though it did not pan out to a chicken dinner finish, you gotta give a round of applause, golf clap to Team Spirit's Effect. And just to put it into perspective here, DG SN putting up a phenomenal performance. Any way you look at it, a phenomenal performance. Getting that winner chicken dinner on the tip of their tongue finish, and doing so boasting a healthy 8 elims. But let's look at it in context to Team Spirit. 14 eliminations and a second place. So you've got 10 placement points plus the 7 elimination points for DG. That's a 17-point gain for DG alone. But 8 points in placement plus 14 eliminations, well, that's a 22-point gain for Team Spirit. So, yeah, they might not have the first place finish, but the most impact and most progress gained in this round, unequivocally, unquestionably, Team Spirit. And Effect is got a heavy backpack, but what a performance on his end. We got FATUM LEX here in 3rd place with 4. We got Rukh in 4th with 3. The Madbulls charging into 5th with 2. KST coming in 6th with 3. We got Virtus.pro in 7th with 4. Brute Force in 8th with 4. De Muerte in 9th with 10. And 6 of those 10 came from Foops. We got GG in 10th with 1 from Focus. Arcred here in 11th with 1. 4FS in 12th with 1. NLO in 13th with 2, both of which go to Sorry. We got DE in 14th with 0. The music, or pardon me. Sorry about that, guys. The Moneymakers in 15th with 3. And lastly, ALPI in 16th and last place with only 1 elim from Step.pro. But ladies and gentlemen, stick around. We got more action as we return in just a few short moments with more action of the OGC Summer Cup Finals Day 1. Stick around. We'll be back soon. All right, welcome back, all you cutie patooties for round 4 of 5 of the OGC Summer Cup Finals Day 1, and we are back for a little bit more destruction in the desert. I am, of course, speaking of Miramar. We already got over all the details that are important to Miramar, so let's just go over the flight path as it currently stands. All right, well, our participants are just not getting very lucky in terms of flight paths. At least it would seem so, but that might not necessarily be the case, and here's why I say that. Miramar is a bit unique in that this flight path that goes from Campo Militar down to this Minas del Sur area divides 2 strings and channels of just compounds and cities, and this flight path will run almost perpendicular to that, so a lot of these cities and compounds will be available, and so they're not left with as inopportunistic as a path as I initially thought. But let's get into it. We got our eyes on Virtus.pro's Milky Way, thrown right into the thick of it and downed like a bad habit. All he had was a VSS up against an Uzi, and you do what you can, but a VSS with no extended mag, it's going to be a tough one, especially at that close of proximity. Let's get a look, make sure we're not missing anything. Tuning a little bit further down south, I saw someone in the chat asking about ALPI. ALPI just trying to land here, but Sondric downed before the remainder of his team can. Looks like we got a little bit of render. There we go. Stepbro just trying to get properly looted. Bego getting a vehicle to try to secure some sort of escape path here, and it looks like the escape has got to be from members of Brute Force. Neo's just securing the takedown and thirst on a member of Rukh eSports. We have got a lot of action already on the board. ALPI kind of stuck in between a rock and a hard place of their own, switching a little bit further up north to where NAVI is. We got flip of NAVI a little bit closer to members of the Moneymakers, and it looks like the remainder of his team actually might be able to catch an off angle. It looks, yeah, they did secure a takedown on Bisque, and now it's a hot pursuit as Puncher gives chase to the remainder of the Moneymakers, trying to desperately escape to a position of cover. Icy Boss just taken right off the edge of that truck bed, and unfortunate start for the Moneymakers. They don't have the loot that they need, no armor, no weaponry to defend themselves. Havlik trying to get properly equipped here before the inevitable push that has to come from Navi at this point. And Bisque just quickly thirsted. All the while, we got Alpi and Team Liquid going off in the distance. So tell you what, we are going to switch over to the perspective of Liquid in this little love triangle here. With Mythic down, it leaves all the pressure on Chief, Cardozan, and Ayala. Players who don't need introductions. Chief with a beautiful takedown, UMP 45. However, in doing those, putting those shots out there, he brought a little bit of attention to himself, and that was enough for members of Alpi to capitalize. And now it's actually Brute Force pushing in aggressively. Chief does secure the revive just in the nick of time, but his teammate probably, Mythic, probably not much in terms of meds, but yeah, Mythic brought right back down to the prone zone with no way of healing. Chief making his final stand. Beautiful shots with the UMP, quickly switching to the M4, and now in a 1v1 altercation with a Brute Force member, and it's going to be YDO securing the finish there, leaving Team Liquid down to the final heartbeat, Cardozan and Ayala. So that's a tough start for Liquid, losing half their starting lineup in the early stages of Stage 1. All the while, FATUM LEX going off in the distance. We're going to go tune in and see if we're missing anything exciting there. Looks like Varinik has an elim to his name. Whatever altercation was on the board with them is probably resolved at this point. So, tuning back to Brute Force, whatever the Brute Force altercation was, that has ended. Alpha 7 down to a 2-piece as well, down to Magrellan and Revo. It looks like Mafioso and Carrillo eliminated early on. Revo with an aggressive push to a weakened Navi, trying to secure their revives. Revo taking a huge load of damage there in the distance, and now able to secure a revive, but finding himself at a 1v3, aiming upwards towards 6, the high ground holder, and leaving himself vulnerable on the side, and Navi capitalizes in full form. All right, well, what else is happening? We got ALPI fairly close in proximity to the opposition in Liquid. ALPI and Liquid, a 2v2, a fair fight for these two teams. Cloud needing a little bit of last-minute loot here before he faces off with the nearby opponents Ayala and Cardozan. We see Ayala with the Mini 14 in hand. Cardozan did recently have that M4 out and ready before trying to consider some utilities to path their way forward. Okay. Anything else on the board that we could be missing? I think this is the closest thing to an altercation, so for now, this is what we're going to stay tuned into. All right, Cardozan needing to heal up. Those heartbeats have slowed a little bit here. Ayala holding off the opposition with that single tap Mini 14. Unless you're Cappy Gaming, that is going to sound like a single tap, understandably so. Ayala pushes in, S18 in hand. Oof. Boy, these shotguns are just absolutely changing the course of PUBG Mobile esports. But Ayala suffering a bit of retaliation. Served cold, fast, and on a platter. And now Cardozan, the final hope for Team Liquid, unless he can secure this revive. Now, pushing forward to this revive, it doesn't seem like he needs to worry about any immediate nades. Yep, no one in his immediate vicinity at this point. So, the revive is successful, and wow, look at this. Ladies and gentlemen, we already are down to 43 people here. We're going to switch our attention to a very weakened Rukh eSports. At this point, Killer Joe and Yankee remain. Kippa and Slonic eliminated early on. And look at this. Even though they are down to a two-piece, finding a solo straggler in Danger eSports hiding behind a hay bale, it's just easy pickings, fish in a barrel, so to speak. And they will take it. That'll be their second elim of the match. And we're hearing shots a little bit further down south, and that's got to be from the likes of Danger eSports, putting out a hurtin' across the way. Who are they firing at? It's got to be none other than Rukh eSports. Rukh at this point down, as we said, Yankee and Killer Joe, and just swallowing that blue zone damage. All right. I'm going to check the board on the alt map, make sure that there's nothing else missing. But as we know to be the case of PUBG Mobile, especially for large maps, we are occasionally going to be left with downtime, pockets of silence, bits of in-between time. But as I said in match 1, it still stands here in match 4. A more passive early game can only mean one thing: a more action-packed and climactic mid or end game. And I wouldn't really call this a passive early game by any means. All right, here we go. We got members of X-Force here, not far off at all from the opposition in Arcred. Arcred unknowingly driving closer and closer to the opposition here. And yeah, here we go. Action on the board here. Bad Boy finding himself in a real tough position here. Falling off the edge. Looks like Argon trying his best to make a little bit of hellfire rain on the opposition. Nades and just absolute utility warfare happening left and right, but not much damage dished out to either team here, with exception to Shazi, who was naded down to below half health, able to fall back to the backside and secure a first aid. And we're going to get a close-up view here as well. Actually, nope. On the alt cam, we're going to have to go tune in to Team Spirit, having a little bit of a go on their own. Whatever they were fighting against looks to have been resolved, but Team Spirit still finding themselves with 0 elims to their name. And is Arcred going to bow out from this close-quarter altercation with ALPI? It looks to be so. As easy as that is to scrutinize, you got to remember, these players are here for a marathon, not a sprint. They are in it for the long haul, and they want that cash money. So a little bit of self-control, discipline, and knowing when which battles to take and which ones to pass up on. That can absolutely be the crucial difference maker between winning first place or a second. All right. Well, bad boy is dropped and sent back to juvie, leaving things in the hands of Hardboy, Frag, and Aragon. Was his name really Aragon this whole time? May the best person... Hey, Becca. All right. Well, we're hearing some distance shots, and that's got to be from... Yeah, Frag, who holds the off angle here. Hardboy trying to run over his opponent, Tima, and turns him into a holding pin. That's going to be a spare. Now, quickly adding insult to injury, Hardboy reorients his attention, getting another knock. Now, look at this. We got KST's Miramar here holding position with the UMP-45, cooking up a preliminary nade, trying to get an easy takedown on one of these members, trying to even the odds a little bit. Dishing out some 45 damage. Hardboy down to half health. Aragon about the same. But oof, as we said earlier, that DBS shotgun, it speaks every language, and the language is down. Down, prone, thirsted. Well, look, who heard the shots? None other than Grimace Gaming. We got Young at the forefront of this third-party push. And it looks like they are actually going to try to get a little bit more strategically positioned, spreading out, if they can, around these two teams in what could be a tactic I like to call the BOA method, essentially, where your team splits up in a 2v2 split, 1v1 or 1-1-1-1 split, or a 3-1 split, surrounding the opposition on numerous sides, and then constricting on them simultaneously, giving that panic factor as well as multiple lines of sight on the opponent. Why don't we see it every game? Because it's very difficult to get into position properly without being spotted. But GG does have some numbers in their favor and a fairly hesitant group of oppositions here, meaning Arcred and KST have both been a bit hesitant to capitalize on these solo rotations that GGs are doing. Solo rotation is a bit of a stretch, but definitely a more vulnerable rotation when you're farther away from your teammates. Whether or not members of Grimace know about Shazzy is yet to be seen. I don't think they do, though. The issue that I have here is that Shazzy already taken some blue zone damage at a low ground, and GG knows that he's out here somewhere. I think it's a matter of time before he is spotted here, especially with this drive rotation from GG. And currently, elsewhere on the board, doesn't look like we're missing any other action yet. But I am going to get Team Liquid, Cardosan on the alt cam, just in case he does push in to members of Danger. And looks like that GG did secure the finish on our straggler of X-Force Shazzy. That's going to be it for X-Force for round 4. And now, GG... Grimace Gaming not far off from Arcred. Arcred, I would imagine, is a bit more concerned with prioritizing a rotation into this new zone. This new zone that is basically occupied and claimed by members of Danger, Liquid, and Spirit. Who has the high ground mountaintop Overwatch, though? That's the real question. Well, the closest one, I would say NAVI's got a few positions here, but Navi Puncher in particular, he does have a line. Now look at that. We were talking about not seeing the Mini 14 looking like an automatic like Cappy Gaming does, but Puncher rapid tapping that bad boy. All right, a little bit of downtime left here. But we are preparing for what is gotta be an inevitably action-packed bloodbath warfare in-game. This is a contestation for high ground right now. Madbulls, Spirit, and Navi have some sort of geographical cover and Overwatch to their name. Not really enough high ground, in my opinion, for Puncher to feel comfortable in a Overwatch position. All right, well, FATUM LEX doing some work in the distance, and it's Alex going in, securing a takedown. Yes, it's going to be on none other than NAVI. Varenic as well, keeping the pressure on NAVI. As you can see, P6 holding position behind a boulder and finding himself just outside the safety, well, I guess false sense of safety of the zone walls. Little bit of time before that blue zone comes in, though. Are we missing anything on the playing field? As of yet, no. I'm going to switch my attention to the opposite end of these shots where FATUM LEX is preparing to try to pull what I think is going to be a flank rotation away from NAVI. And I don't necessarily blame them because we are reaching what's going to look like a pretty intense endgame. And the reason I think that it's the right move for them to not engage in this is because pretty shortly, only 3 more teams need to be eliminated before placement points are a considerable option for these teams. And those 3 teams, once things get into this, concluding portions of the next stage, probably towards the end of stage 4, that team number is going to drop pretty quickly. And I'm going to say we're going to lose about a third of the playing field within 2 to 3 minutes of that. And I think that could be a real opportunity for some of these teams like Virtus.pro, who haven't necessarily gained a lot of eliminations, in their case 0 elims, to get some easy placement point gains, just hanging on, letting other teams be eliminated. They don't even need to put themselves in any sort of vulnerable or dangerous territory. All right. Gonna check the map. And once again, a battle of patience for these teams. We're going to go to Virtus.pro on the alt cam. And yeah, I see a little something here uncorking between Virtus.pro and the Madbulls. So tell you what, we'll get Madbulls here. You know what? Let's get Madbulls on the main cam. I don't feel like they've had a lot of screen time on the big screen. And we'll get Virtus.pro on the alt. All right. Well, Zeri holding position, M4 in hand. It's got that UMP 45 at the ready for any aggressive pushes from Virtus, but it doesn't look like Virtus.pro wants that altercation just yet. Malloy trying to retreat back to a position of geographical cover. Bringing me back to the point I made in round 1, when compound cover can be few and far between, that geographical cover can be the only difference maker between you and being an open fish in a barrel territory, just like Korka did to himself, lining himself up in between 2 enemy teams here. He became the deli meat of a peanut butter and screwed sandwich real quick. All right, well, Arcred off in the distance, continuing this warpath as Aragon dishes out some beautiful damage, getting a takedown on Thirst, all the while NAVI going off on the, well, pardon me, NAVI going off against somebody. They've got Team Liquid just above them. Tell you what, we're going to get Liquid's position here. Cardozan at this point is a solo, holding this second story, awaiting the inevitable push from the first story holders in NAVI, and he's got 1 teammate knocked, and that is his only possible hope, is maybe securing a revive or just facing this team head on. But the mollies rain hellfire on him. He became a burning candle, still getting the takedown with the DVS, but flips the script and thirsts him right then and there. But what an effort. NAVI, a whole different NAVI than we may have seen in round 1, as this NAVI boasts 9 elims. And get this, while they don't have Lemon up on the team, Lemon was eliminated before any of the teams were able, or any elimination points were on the board. All 9 elims are to their 3 remaining survivors, so you can't rule them out yet. Virtus.pro up against the likes of Grimace. We got Yumi here cooking up a frag for Malloy. All the while, Team Spirit going off in the distance. Let's catch eyes on Spirit. Yeah, we'll catch Spirit on the main cam, actually. And the Madbulls going to be on the alt cam, where English trying to get a utility knock here to finish Naomi. 26 is down. 26 down to 0. Back down to 6 feet below. That's going to leave Bank U as the final hope now for Team Spirit. Do he got Spirit? Yes, he do. Is it enough Spirit to take on 3 Madbulls? Oof. Well, Hellfire crashing around him. Bank U taken down to below half health, desperately in need of a revive here. All the while, English maintains this onslaught of nade crashing down around him. Now with a molly being cooked up, anything that gets this guy should probably result in a push once these utilities clear up, the smoke and the fog clear up. And here we go, Zeri dishing out some damage and a jump shot between English and Zeri to finish the job. Well, the Sharks smelled the blood in the water, they heard the shots, and here comes Rukh, Yankee, and Killer Joe trying to get a third party on the likes of the Madbulls. Well, Madbulls trying to escape the clutches of a aggressing Rukh eSports, retreating back to a position of safety if possible. And it looks like they might even get away successfully, but no time to waste. We are down to our final member of GG here, which is none other than Hitman 4K. Very close by a member of Danger Esports, Banana looming just above him on this hilltop. And ironically enough, behind him, there could be something brewing between Arcred and Virtus.pro. And so on the alt cam, we got Virtus.pro solo Malloy. Here we go, Yumi S12, even with the low ground, still able to secure the knock and thirst. Not going to be able to heal up before the push. And oh my goodness, if Banana didn't get that thirst right there with the bullets, it would have been a vehicle takedown right after. Look at this, Malloy just continuing this onslaught. I stand corrected earlier. Malloy, even as a solo, putting up a phenomenal solo performance. Just engaging with everyone around him. His position, while being no secret, is still uncontested. Gonna have to tune into NAVI and Rukh here. It looks like Rukh feeling the pressure as a two-piece of Yankee and Killer Joe. Yankee naded down to just above half health, utilizing this hay bale for cover here. And it looks like NAVI is gonna need to secure a revive. All the while, Hellfire crashing around them. And for NAVI, the back end being very vulnerable to FATUM LEX. And case and point, Rukh eSports with one nade to seal the deal. Killer Joe living up to his name. There's a reason they don't just call him Joe. All right, Cave and FATUM LEX, with Alex being at a serious disadvantage here, low health, and only 2 members on his team here. Outnumbered, outmanned, and outgunned here. Not to mention a bit of high ground Overwatch position going to Cave Esports. This is going to be a very tough one for FATUM LEX to maneuver, especially if they fall into that false sense of comfort and hide inside that shack. Well, if they do that, they are lining themselves up literally like fish in a barrel. I use that expression a lot today, I've noticed. But the shack is basically would be a sacrifice of your standings. If Cave knew about it and they tried it, game over. And I think that is probably the biggest error that I see at the tier 1 level for those shacks. Yes, I know that those 4 walls of comfort can give that false sense of security, but Cave would know for sure. All right, ladies and gentlemen, down to 4 teams. We got ourselves a 4v2, v2v1 spread across 9 people, all in favor of Cave Esports. The numbers are in their favor. It's their match to win. But anything can happen in a PUBG Mobile Esports in-game. Let's get it.
Let's get ready to rumble!
All right, Ego cooking up a utility here, aimed outwards towards this full 4-piece of Cave Esports. And here comes the rotation. We can see it on the alt cam, but let's get better eyes here.
Yep, Malloy, as we saw him on the alt cam, eliminated just numbers in their favor. In poker, they call it the big stack bully tactic, and it's exactly what KV eSports should be doing. I love this 2-2 split. Diversifying their portfolio, using their assets to the best of their advantage here. Ego, the final hope here for FATUM LEX, desperately trying to hold the opposition belly goal at bay, but nades! Hellfire crashing all around him and eliminating him just like that. Now Rukh, Yankee, quick to follow and just turned into a bowling pin. Nades crashing down left and right, vehicles running him over. Ladies and gentlemen, this was an end game for the ages. Cave eSports coming right out of that cave of defeat that they crawled into at the end, or at the beginning of round one, being the first, one of the first teams eliminated, if not the first, and then just flipping the script. They did not get deterred. They're keeping their eye on the prize and talk about a comeback story like none other. Give it up to Cave eSports, a phenomenal performance and a chicken dinner first place finish, and to add on to that, 8 elims, that's an easy 18-point gain. Rukh eSports, ain't nothing wrong with silver when you're adding 5 elims into the equation. FATUM LEX in third with 5, Virtus.pro in fourth with 3. We got NAVI working their way into fifth with 11. Not bad. So even though they got a little bit lower on the placement board, they definitely are getting placement points and a very healthy number of elims to even that out. The Madbulls running into 6th place here with 4 elims. We got Danger Esports in 7th with 1 from Banana. Arcred in 8th with, 6. GG in 9th with 3. We got Team Spirit in 10th with 2 from K26. Team Liquid splashing into 11th with 4. KST in 12th with 1 from Tima. ALPI in 13th with 3. Alpha 7 in 14th with 0, Brute Force in 15th with 3, and lastly, the, oh my, why do I have so much trouble remembering it? The Moneymakers in 16th and last place with 1 elim from Havoc. But ladies and gentlemen, yeah, any way you look at it, that's got to be game over, but we've had 4 matches down, done, and dusted, and 1 remains. Only 1 match remaining for the day to decide who wants their fairest shot at the cash prize here. Well, stick around, and we'll be back with our 5th and final round of the PUBG Mobile OGC Summer Cup Finals Day 1 in just a few short moments. Be back soon. All right, ladies and gentlemen, you already know what time it is. We're back with the fifth and the final round of the PUBG Mobile OGC Summer Finals Day 1, and it ends where it all began, the very first map ever introduced to the game, Erangel. We already got over all the details of this map in rounds 1 and 3, so let's just look at the flight path. All right. This is probably the most opportunistic flight path that the participants have had for an Erangel today. Not a bad one. Going to be plenty of drop spots. Not the best either. There's definitely not going to be any East Coast landing spots here, but definitely a ton of cities and options to choose from. Hospital, Georgia Pole, Zarki, Primorsk, Millie Base, Pachinki, obviously. And speaking of Pachinki, let me zoom in, make sure we're not missing anything. It looks like Pachinki is going to be claimed by 4FS. We're going to go check out on ALPI and Madbulls to the north. Oh, I said Madbulls. All right, well, talk about an altercation that has been thwarted, but looks like Arcred off in the distance, getting some shots in. Yes, they are getting takedowns on members of poor ALPI, just trying to land in. Sondrick touches the ground, but not before being knocked mid-parachute. It is tragic. A little bit of mercy being shown by Arcred instead of driving forward to aggressively push on 3 members of ALPI that we know Fraggin and Hardboy saw landing, so they know that they're not equipped with loot yet. But tuning in down south at Millie Base, where Team Liquid is facing off with none other than their opposition in NAVI. We'll get NAVI pulled up on the alt cam, get both sides of the altercation here. Now, Lemon, responsible for Navi's only elim so far, rushing around the corner and really just barely escaping the clutches of Chief there. Tell you what, we're going to go get it from Navi's perspective here on the main cam. Flip, UMP S18 combo in hand. That's 2 close quarter combat annihilators. Lemon still holding the corner. It looks like Puncher crouched and a little bit. Maybe he was the one being fired at. Tough to say. But 6 a little bit of a ways off any way you look at it. So realistically, this is an aggressive push with a 3-piece of Navi. Ayala shot down to just below half health, and nades are being cooked. Oh, the quick work. Lemon making it rain. A little bit of hellfire, falling a little too ahead of himself, pushing in with the nade, completely vulnerable to shots, but somehow dodged them. But then Flip and Lemon downed very quickly before our eyes. Luckily, Puncher came in to throw that last minute 1-2 punch himself and secure it. But not out of the frying pan per se just yet. There is still a member of Grimace Gaming not far off. I am, of course, speaking of Moxie, holding this hilltop here. Making sure we're not missing anything else on the playing field. It does not look like we are. Nope, we are not. And look at these shots from Moxie. 6x M4 dishing out a heap of damage. Not quite enough to seal the deal for him, though. All right, what else is happening on the playing field at this stage? Not a lot. And actually, you know, guys, when you want to get down to it, that is fairly understandable. Context is everything, and this is the final match of the day, where last chance for these teams to really make their mark here on day 1. And for a lot of these teams, the performances have been inconsistent. And not for everyone, but for a lot of these teams, like for instance, let's look at KV Sports, you know, a very, very rough start to the day. Also, a couple chicken dinners to add into the equation, so it definitely adds up to a bit of a mixed bag. So they don't want to end on any sort of faulty notes here. You know, confidence can be just an absolute imperative difference maker at this stage and tier of PUBG Mobile esports. And I think getting that momentum at the fifth match of day one can certainly help acquire that confidence moving into match one of day two. All right, here we go, ladies and gentlemen. 4FS and ALPI getting ready for a little something, something. Broken in a hot pursuit, airborne with them, driving right next to the opposition. Clouda quickly dishing out some DBS shots, but down to half health himself, but not before being able to take a 4FS down to, I guess, 3FS, as now they are reliant upon, pardon me, model. Well, the model has been sent off the runway. So at this stage, it's down to Broken and Airborne for 4FS. Airborne shooting some nades, Airborne out towards Alpine, trying to hold the opposition off at bay. It does not look like Cody or Model have much opportunities to be saved here. Oh. And as I say that, Airborne with a monster nade to even the odds. This is going to absolutely lead to a push. In just a brief moment, Alpi has been reduced down to their final hope, Bego 74. Bego enshrouding his teammate Clouda, ironically, in a cloud of smoke here, and trying to make a heyday with some of these utilities. Doesn't seem like 4FS is all too concerned, and they're going to drive away from the altercation. Why? Because Madbulls have come in for a third-party push. And look here. Senator of Danger Esports trying to get a little political here. All the while, A7 Revo, a name that needs no introduction, here duking it out with De Muerte. Look at Mafioso treating the car like a freaking skateboard. Landed on the rooftop. Nades just crashing down. McGrellin pushing in. S18 in hand, 2 shots still left. 1 for the thirst on Eugene. It's not going to be the... well, he's still going to get the thirst. All right, Pusher, very injured here. Bleeding out. And De Muerte down to their final hope. But now, we've seen what Foops can do as a solo. We saw Foops, man, a De Muerte solo secure a chicken dinner and... or pardon me, not a chicken dinner, a second place finish, but with such a phenomenal performance that it outpointed the first place finishers. So you can't rule Foopsman out just yet. No time to waste. Arcred gaining some ground here on Danger Esports. Frag 4x M4, quick takedown on Banana. That Banana is no longer ripe, and the remainder of his team aggressively pushing forward here. Aragon at the forefront of one of them. Looks like Bad Boy driving around a little bit aggressively. Hardboy alongside, so a little bit of assistance here. Fragger living up to the name. It's going to be a battle of frags between him and Senator. All right. Now that, I gotta say, that was a bit of a impulsive move there by Senator. Being 4 feet away from your opponent and both of you cooking up utilities does seem like there are more efficient ways of defending yourself. But easy for me to say with Observer's 2020 hindsight. Regardless, that is it. Danger Esports is out of there. The danger has been thwarted. And now Arcred moving forward with 6 elims and a full 4-piece team. But they're not out of the frying pan just yet. They still have an enemy in the shape and form of Bego 74, the last hope for Alpi. Looks like they also have a distant threat that's going to be Grimace Gaming. Another full 4-piece here with Moxie just on the edge of the hilltop here. Look at this. Bego's nade crashing right next to the opposition. So close to hitting the mark, but not quite. Bego, I think he knows Aragon's location. Yes, he does. Boom! Goes the dynamite just like that. Nicely done. Well, that's going to put Frag in a world of hurt. Hellfire crashing around him, taking him down to below half health. He is in desperate need of some heals, and his teammate now eliminated. He's going to have to try to acquire these meds, and luckily for him, I'm thinking that Bego is out of utilities. He might have smokes, but I don't think he has another frag, or Fragger would have been eliminated right then and there. Bego awaiting the inevitable push, but turning his back to Fragger. This is an extremely vulnerable and dangerous position for him, and not a lot in terms of options that he can do. He's got some walls for cover, gonna try to add some smokes into it, maybe confuse Arcred a little bit if possible. But ultimately spotted by none other than Grimace Gaming, getting the easy elim still. And that is talking about time, positioning, and context. Got to give credit to Grimace Gaming. They did not put themselves in a vulnerable position. They just sat there patiently and waited for the right time to strike. And now look at them surrounding Arcred like mosquitoes in a North Carolina summer. And boy, this could spell trouble if you are the three-piece in Arc. But you can't rule them out. I mean, a three-piece is still a very formidable offense. And so a 3v4, stranger things have happened even today. We've seen almost 1v4 squad wipes being pulled off. So at the end of the day, this is still going to be a challenge. And just like that, Moxie taking down Bad Boy, reducing Arcred to half of their starting lineup, down to a two-piece of Frag and Hardboy, being surrounded now on 4 angles. Just for the sake of a little bit of analysis here, look at this, ladies and gentlemen. Look at the surrounding positioning of Grimace Gaming here. Keeping the pressure, even with Hitman and Young continuously driving around, keeping Fragboy and Hardboy guessing, leaving Moxie an outlier angle, maybe to even just get the attention drawn away from, get that off angle to take Fragger or Hardboy into the prone zone, get him knocked. However, as I say that, I feel like if that was the leading strategy that they were going in with, something would have been done by now. Perhaps it could be that Grimace is just waiting for Arc to make a vulnerable mistake, maybe a panic response from hearing Grimace driving around them. And it doesn't seem like Arcred, if that is the case, it doesn't seem like Arcred is going to take the bait. We got DG here getting high ground in full form. Beautiful positioning here. They do have a great Overwatch angle. Nice high ground to overlook a lot of open field, including where A7, Spirit, and maybe even on their backside where De Muerte lies. The only issue that I have with this is that it is vulnerable from both angles, meaning that if members of, DGS focused a little too hard on A7, then it would almost spell certainty that NLO or 4FS would get an off angle and probably a third-party attack. So yes, it is a great positioning to have, but they do need to split up their resources to try to keep the Overwatch accountable to 360 degrees, unfortunately, of potential danger. Now we're hearing some shots from these high ground holders here, Grimace. Anything else happening on the playing field? I'm checking the map. I don't see anything yet. So we are left with a bit of a waiting game, but as we said a little bit earlier, you know, it is to be expected to have bits of downtime on larger maps, and larger maps are the entirety of the structure of today, as we are only switching between Erangel and Miramar. So yeah, you can expect the downtime, especially in the final match of the day, where it's their last chance to leave their mark before they have that little intermission time between today and day 2. All right, shots fired outbound by Grimace Gaming, trying to get some damage on a passing Team 22, the Madbulls. Pardon me, not Madbulls. Spirit. Boy, patience is a virtue to an extent. We're down to our final 10 teams spread across 33 people only. So we've got a lot of weekend teams here. And if ever there was a time to play reserved or cautiously for a lot of these teams, it would be now, when there's literally only 2 more teams need to be eliminated before you've reached the bracket to acquire placement points. So for some of these teams who are having trouble in their aggressive confrontations, you know, their actual close quarter fights, their 1v1s and 2v1s, well, that's their opportunity to get some points on the board without having to risk that. And I think for a lot of these teams, that is an opportunity that they can't really afford to pass up. Now we're hearing shots. It's, I believe, Moxie 3x M4 just trying to keep the pressure on frag. But there is nothing else on the board yet. Time is of the essence as we reach the concluding portions of Stage 3. We still have a little bit of action ahead of us, but we're going to go to Bank U of Team Spirit, just ganged up on by A7 as Carrillo makes the DBS do what the DBS does. 26 putting some shots outbound towards Mafioso. Mafioso not scared for a second. Revo taking down Effect. 26 having to withdraw a little bit. Naomi putting some outbound shots in self-defense. 4x M4, but swallowing retaliatory damage, taken down to 2/3 of his overall health. He's got a nade to cook up for McGrellin, but not before the molly crashes right in front of Naomi. Naomi surviving it by the hair on his chin, just barely out of the cusp of that molly fire, and quickly reuniting with his teammate 26, but leaving his back end unattended to. Did that nade that he threw just then, it must have gotten the takedown on A7. Yes, we see it now on the kill feed as 26 gets the finish on Mafioso. That is it for Alpha 7, just like that. But no time to waste. We got Zoom of NLO driving into the frying pan there and quickly having to recalibrate his positioning and resettle himself, getting out of the line of fire as fast as possible. Now looks like 26 of Spirit dangerously close to Grimace, and he knows it. 26 trying to give himself some utility cover, throwing out some smokes. If Grimace knows his location, then yeah, that's great. If they didn't, then that smoke was probably a bit counterproductive. It doesn't seem like Grimace was even concerned with pushing that, and so this is going to be all that Spirit needs to relocate and rotate into this next zone. And it looks like we've got an altercation in the making between NLO and DG, but it looks also to be a potential love triangle from a distant third-party threat in Grimace Gaming. Limbo Boom putting some hellfire outwards towards Sari, keeping the opponent held off at bay. Now NLO sitting pretty steady here with 0 elims. They still are a full 4-piece, but again, remember what I said in round 3. Yes, placement is very, very important. It still definitely serves a heavy weight, even with the new shift in scoring structure, but placement alone is not going to be enough to surpass teams like Cave and Alpha 7, you know, that are just so comfortable in their close quarter confrontations and getting those easy elim points. Yeah, the placement alone will not be enough. At some point, the teams that are in it for the slow haul are going to have to weigh their options, and when time becomes enough of a factor, meaning on day 2, if it becomes the difference maker between advancing and not, they're going to have to take these fights one way or the other. Now we're hearing some shots, and I'm thinking it's other members of NLO. Yeah, it is. It's Boston keeping some distance shots aimed downwards, but no time to waste as De Muerte's final hope, Foops, getting a knock of his own. Remember what I said earlier, you can't rule out Foops even as a solo. This guy put up such a monstrous performance earlier today. as a solo that he brought De Muerte all the way up to a second place finish that equated to more points than a first place with few elims. Oops knows how to play under pressure. That is the takeaway. Puncher securing the revive on his fallen teammate Lemon. Now they still have a bit of a downhill disadvantage. The high ground being held by none other than DGS. Lemon having to refocus the attention to members of De Muerte down south. Luckily for him, a little unintentional assistance from FATUM LEX gonna ease that threat, but let that be a lesson to NAVI. With FATUM behind them, you know, they gotta still remember to account for their backside. Looks like Lemon has had enough of it and is aggressing forward close enough to the nade range, but Limbo is not stupid. He knows what's coming, cooking up a retaliatory nade of his own, quickly switching over. Magnum throwing out some preemptive nades as well. Oh, but the nade crashing onto Limbo, taking him down to just above 10%, and the remainder of the team has pushed in. Magnum stuck in a 1v2 altercation here. S12 doing what the S12 does. Beautiful takedown, but the nades crashing onto Magnum. He wanted to revive, but it is not going to happen. And if you dish a shotgun knock, you better be ready to receive a shotgun knock. And retaliation, and boy, oh boy, did they ever. We got to switch over to Arcred being swarmed on by none other than 4FS. Broken and airborne here. Hardboy firing down onto Broken with the UMP-45. Fragger living up to his name with some frags thrown out, but not hitting the mark. Luckily, Hardboy does get the knock, and Fragger able to take on the back-end approach from Broken, and just like that, 4FS has been eliminated. Ladies and gentlemen, all-out bloodbath warfare from here as Navi and NLO prepare to face off. And all the while, further down south, Grimace facing off with Team Spirit. Let's get both fights here on the board. Tell you what, we're going to switch the fights a little bit because it looks like this one is popping off a little bit more. Yeah, we got Effect here on the front ground here up against numerous members of Grimace, trying to make the most use of a utility, get an easy knock. All the while, he's got some assistance, unintentional as it is, from Arcred, keeping the opponent held off and basically imprisoned in this building. And yeah, this is happening. All the while, NLO facing off with their opponents in Arcred on the main screen. Hellfire thrown to and from these teams. Effect going to have to fall back to a position of safety here. Naomi desperately in need of a first aid. Going to try to do so right here in the smoke. Moxie getting this off angle and cooking out some utilities of their own, but they don't realize Young, the shooter on the roof, the devil you don't know. Naomi pushes in, securing one knock with the Groza onto Moxie. Taken down to, I'd say, just below 3/4 of his health. Securing more damage, but ultimately downed right then and there by Yumi. That's going to leave Effect as the final hope in a 1v1 altercation, I believe. We're going to get Yumi here on the alt cam, and here we have it. 2 solos. Only one can leave. Does Effect got Spirit? Yes, he do. Does Grimace Gaming have Spirit? Questionably, maybe not. All right. FATUM LEX, 9 elims to their name and a full 4-piece, making the Hellfire rain outwards towards NLO. NLO with 9 elims of their own. We've got a fair fight between these two teams to end our final endgame of the day.
Let's get ready to rumble!
Just a heap of smokes being utilized here. Going to exemplify a great point. Ladies and gentlemen, these end games can be just open for the taking here, and sometimes when geographical and compound cover becomes few and far between, those smoke grenades and utilities can be the only cover between a first place finish and a second place. Boston catching a line of sight. I believe he thought he caught a line of sight, but no damage whatsoever dished out there. Gonna try to use this opportunity to get a preliminary boost before this inevitable confrontation. We got a 4v4, 2 full teams to duke it out for our 5th and final round. That's right, ladies and gents, if you're just tuning in, fifth and final round of day one of the OGC Summer Cup Finals. And just like that, Cried getting 2 birds, 1 stone, leaving Ace 010 and Ego as the final hope for the team. And boy, the damage is dished out in spades. Ego taken down by a nade just like that, and quick work is made. Ladies and gentlemen, what a final showing. Any way you look at it, that has got to be game over. But what a phenomenal day of performances. Sorry about that. What a phenomenal day of performances. And honestly, no team really altogether stole the show for day one. There was a lot of, definitely gap widening streaks, but no one put themselves as such an outlier. At least I don't believe so until we see the final results for day one. But I don't believe we're going to have any drastic outliers in terms of placement. So this is going to be very exciting moving into day two. Let's give a round of applause, though, nonetheless, to a great Match 5 performance from NLO, boasting an extremely healthy 13 elims, adding it on to the chicken dinner on the tip of their tongue placement finish. That is a 23-point gain for NLO in Match 5 alone. FATUM LEX, another phenomenal performance to them. It's going to be 9 elims in second place. That's a 17-point gain, I believe, for FATUM LEX for round 5. We got Team Spirit showing that they do have some spirit, coming in bronze third place with 8 elims. Grimace in fourth with 4. We got Arcred. They definitely played a bit of a slower, more reserved approach here in Match 5 and get 5th place overall with 7 elims. Not a bad elim count to add into the equation. NAVI in 6th place with 8, half of which go to Lemon. We got 4FS securing 7th with 2, both of which are from Airborne. We got DG coming in 8th, but with 0 elims to their name. Speaking of 0, De Muerte, a team that has put up some seriously impressive performances earlier today, finding themselves just outside the bracket of placement points and 0 elims to add into the equation. That's a rough way to end the day. Alpha 7, not a great placement. 10th place, 4 elims, 1 per person. Everybody eats, equal effort, but not with enough placement to really make that an impacting positive change for them. The Madbulls in 11th. Not an ideal finish for them, especially with only 1 elim from FlyQ. We got KST coming in 12th with 0 as well. ALPI, a rough finish for them, 13th with 3 elims. All 3 came from Bego 74. We got DE in 14th with 1 from Banana. Cave Esports, talk about momentum that has not been maintained. Cave Esports not able to keep up that snowball traction, and unfortunately it does not pan out very well for them in Match 5 as they get second to last place with 0 elims to add into the equation. And even more so, Team Liquid, a team that needs no introduction, a team that adds fear into the hearts of a lot of these opponents. A little chill down your spine when you hear Team Liquid or Alpha 7. Well, every dog has their day, which means every dog has their bad days too. And Liquid had a rough finish in this last match, getting last place with 0 elims. Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, that is all the gameplay that we have got for you for day one of the OG Summer Cup Finals. But stick around. We're going to be back in just a few short moments with the final results of day one as they currently stand. Stick around. We'll be back soon.
Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, I have the final results as they currently stand. So, without further ado, the placements for the PUBG Mobile OGC Summer Cup Finals Day 1. Bum ba da bum. And we got Team Spirit literally tied neck for neck here, right at the toes here with 4FS at 36 points. And get this, second place only trails by literally 1 point, you guys. 1 point separating third place from first, and literally only 2 points separating fourth from third, where FATUM LEX at 34, Rukh eSports only 3 points from first and from fifth. Literally, you guys, the difference between seventh and first place, 4 tiny points, which means that if a team were to, let's say, rather than engaging, in these top 8 placements, just hang on and lay low for 4 more placement positions, that could have been the difference maker for a team like DGS, getting all the way up into the first place position at the end of the day. This is so absolutely close, and it doesn't end there, ladies and gentlemen. Even at 8th and 9th, NAVI and Arcred are tied at 27 and only leading KV Esports by 1 point. Let's go ahead and get a more full-on view. We've got Virtus.pro in 11th, 1 point behind Cave. Alpha 7 in 12th with 21. Madbulls only 1 point behind A7 in 13th with 20. Liquid in 14th with 19. ALPI 15th with 16. Grimace Gaming in 16th with 13. Moneymakers have a lot of ground to make up. Same can be said for Brute Force and Costaria and Danger. But, hey, ain't nothing over until the lady sings, and for teams like Team Spirit, yeah, they got Spirit, but so does 4FS, so does NLO, so does FATUM LEX, so does Rukh, so does De Muerte, so does DGSN. There are going to be a ton of absolute heavy hitters who are coming out for that first place prize on the mine, out for blood, come day 2 of the OGC Summer Cup Finals. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I just want to say this has been an absolute honor and pleasure getting to cast this for you today. I'm RedEyes, and I'm primarily known for being a semi-professional esports commentator for the North American region. Now, let me just go ahead and say the obvious. The level of gameplay here and the level of utility usage and just skill, I'm not downing the NA region, but to deny that there is a huge skill gap between these teams and the teams that I am accustomed to observing, it would just be arrogant. These teams that participated here today deserve all the flowers for the performances that they did. This was not one team leading the entire event. This was 10 teams at each other's throats. And I can't tell you enough how thankful I am to have had the opportunity to commentate this. And you can see me back again on the 20th for the next day that I'll be doing of it. I believe day 2 may or may not be passed on to a different commentator who I know you'll be in phenomenal hands with. But you'll be seeing me back again before too long. And until then, I've been RedEyes, your ever-lovable and adorably cuddly caster. Can't get through sentences, but it has been an honor. See y'all on the next one. GG's.